session. And without much ado, I would like to kind of jump in right away and request all our alumni to briefly introduce themselves, what their background is, and how they came across FECAT and what their journeys have been. Um, I mean, it's up to you, whoever wants to start.
I can start.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Maina, and nice to see you all. I have had it feels like I had a whole life before I started FECAT. I did my FECAT in 2018. I've spent I'm an engineer by education, and I went to US to do my master's. And then I worked there for about 6 years before I came back to India. So I worked in a number of organizations, the last being I was an entrepreneur. I had my own IT company, a recruitment company, which was also doing some software, high tech. From there, and when Sathwik actually says, how did you come by SMART? I literally came by SMART. SMART as an institute, the building actually was on my way to work, in Alsur. That was where they were before. And I literally drove by it and I had looked it up. I think I had applied even before once, spoken to Brinda before I actually got into the program 3 years later. So it was something that was really kind of had caught my eye, and I wanted to, curiosity, I want to say, initially, but also really, really liked this. I'm a trained Bharatanatyam dancer. Something that I can't say now I regret not having gone back to, because I feel like I never really probably gave up dancing as such in my life. And this connection to art is probably what brought me back to SMART. And the fact that it would also help me, help me kind of understand myself. I still find just dance in whatever form, therapeutic by itself. And then imagine learning about it actually. I just love learning new things. I think that was really what brought me here. And then there has been no turning back. So that's me. I presently do practice expressive arts therapies. I do mostly individual, but I'm open to doing groups. I was just talking to Bhargavi about a lovely group that we ran for local women during the COVID times. Yeah, so in short, that's me. And hi, Brinda. Nice to see you.
Hi.
Yeah, I passed the baton. Yeah.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, whoever wants to go next.
I can go.
Sure. So for those of us,
on, Sathwik, yeah.
No, I just forgot to introduce myself. I'm Sathwik. I work as a relationship manager at SMART. Yes, please, Nidhi, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Nidhi. I did my FECAT in 2019-20. Well, my background, again, not very dissimilar to mine. I come from corporate experience spanning over 10 plus years. I'm from the retail industry, so I was a very number crunching business management kind of a professional. I had an entrepreneurial stint in between and I was doing well, but it felt like my heart is not in it. There is money and there is recognition and there's everything, but something is amiss. How I bumped into FECAT is very interesting because I'd liked SMART page on Facebook for quite a while, but I never really paid attention to what it does and all of that. And in 2019, June, I serendipitously bumped into it again, saw a post about FECAT, and I was like, this sounds very interesting. And I was already contemplating maybe it's time by end of the year or next year I should move out, figure out something else. I called up Monica. Monica's like, well, you could probably do Desire with Brinda to get a flavor of what this is about. And I came for Desire in August. And I think within 2 hours of Desire having started, I was like, yes, this is really something that I want to do. How the switch happened is I've sort of been on a spiritual journey for 10 plus years. So I've been walking home to myself in that manner through kriyas and processes and meditations. And I thought, why not try this way of just coming home to myself, to figuring myself, to just know myself more intimately. And it's been phenomenal. So I did FECAT last year. I'm pursuing another program with Smart right now, which is called Expressive Body. I also see clients. I do expressive art therapy. I work with groups across government organizations, some corporates as well. And it feels like I'm light years away from a corporate career. And it just feels like this is probably something that should have come to me earlier, but better late than never. Yeah, that's it for now.
Thank you, Nidhi.
Hey, I'll go next. And Nidhi,
Yes.
I was with you on that Desire workshop, but unlike for you, I did the workshop after my training. So I think I went through the entire year of what FECAT is.
You were actually very instrumental in helping me make the decision because of my conversations with you and Vinny in Desire.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. Something I didn't know. Yay, good to hear that. So hi everyone, my name is Atmica. I did my FECAT training in 2017. I was 22 back then. Feel quite old now. And also some of you say all have done this ages ago. I've done it a year before all of that. So I think really been ages since that training. But yeah, I think what I do now, I'm a qualified dance movement therapist, and I think the decision of doing this and pursuing this career came from one, my training in dance. I am a Bharatanatyam dancer. I've also done a full-time training in performing arts. But I think what really happened to me was as a dancer, trainer, performer for very, very long, I decided that there's something more to movement than just making it aesthetically pleasing, um, making it visually appealing and all of that. That part of it was great, but there was just something that wasn't sitting right for me with just the medium of movement. And around this time was also the time I was planning my MBA, like every other Indian graduate kid, studying for my CAT exams. And then I knew about Smart for a few weeks up at that point because of my training in dance. And I had one interview with Brinda, and she did say at that point that you are quite young to do this. This needs a lot of experience, but you also seem a bit confused, and maybe this will help you get some clarity, which it has. It's given me more than just clarity. It's been quite the journey, and now I don't just use expressive arts. The modality of expressive arts with clients. I also do it personally. I'm in personal therapy. It's been a journey that is ongoing, and it really began with the FECAT training in 2017 for me. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And right now I'm a practicing therapist. I work primarily with creative arts, and I work in a couple of organizations in Bangalore. And I also run groups with addiction patients. That's what I do.
For those of you who don't know, Atmika is also Arts as a Catalyst Fellow. So Arts as a Catalyst Fellowship is something that Smart gives out for not young, expressive art therapists who are interested in working with communities. Atmika, would you like to speak a little bit about your journey there and how it's been going?
Yes, Sathwik. Thank you so much. I don't know how I forgot to mention that because I just finished uh, that fellowship yesterday. Yesterday was my last working day on the fellowship program. So I worked at a halfway home called Asha Halfway Home. It's a home for severe to mild psychiatric patients. I've done 12 weeks. So the fellowship offers it pays for you to use creative tools in communities in need. So a lot of these places and a lot of these patients are they benefit greatly from having expressive arts therapy interventions, but they just don't there's no infrastructure and financial aid for that in most of these organizations. And I think Arts as a Catalyst is one of those places where you can actually feel like a professional, a part of the team, because you are one, being paid for the work, and also being supported to do the work in a way that is beneficial for both yourself as therapist and in your personal growth, and for the patients and clients you work with. Yeah, we do I think 3 to 6 months based on whether you are doing 1 or 2 sessions. You can work in any community in need, from slums to addiction centers to like what I did in a halfway home. And you are supervised. Brinda was my supervisor through that through that journey. Yeah, that's about the fellowship, and I have just completed doing that, and I was a fellow for last year, 2021.
Thank you, Atmica. Um, who is going to take charge next?
I'll go next.
Yeah,
Bhargavi?
please.
Okay. So my name is Dinesh. It's so nice to meet and see all my friends and family faces here. Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining in and giving us an opportunity to share our experience with SMART. So I did my program in 2021. So I've just passed out, and I'm now practicing. So I've worked with the corporate sector for almost a decade and a half, largely in human resources and kind of managing groups and businesses. And I never really thought that I'll find myself doing something like this. Till the time I had a major health setback about a decade back, which kind of threw a spanner in my plans for myself personally and professionally. And in 2018 and 19, I had my first experience of therapy during a fellowship program that I did because I wanted to explore teaching as a profession and especially working with children. So I did a fellowship, in that area, and that's when I had my first experience of therapy, as I said. So that kind of gave me a little bit of window into what I needed personally, and I had realized that my relationship with my body and my health was something that was, a big aspect of, an ongoing area of growth, I would say, because I was really, I had a very dysfunctional relationship with my body. And so as I continued to explore, I met a couple of my friends who did the FECAT program, and they told me about the program and what their experience was. And when I first spoke to Brinda, my intention was to become a play therapist. Brinda kind of gave me an idea about what I can expect and what, how my own lived experience would help me through the program. And I didn't realize it then. I mean, what she told me was very hard to believe then. But now I realize that a lot of my work now stems from my own lived experience of, my relationship with my body and the trauma that I've lived through, whether it is physical or emotional. So now in my practice, I find that a lot of my lived experience kind of helps me, it keeps coming in the work that I do, and it kind of helps me in my practice with the clients that I meet. So as of now, I'm meeting individual clients. I've not yet started working with groups. There are a few conversations going on. So yeah, that's about my experience with SMART and the FECAT program.
Thank you, Dinesh. Bhargavi?
Yes, Sathwik, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Bhargavi, and I also was Dinesh's batchmate and very recently finished FECAT. It's been, I guess, 6 months or so. Time really flies. And since continuing from my internships, which began as part of FECAT, I continued to see clients right after that. I didn't really take a break, and many of my internship clients sort of converted to paid clients, and then I got more clients. And now I would say that I am like an expressive arts therapy practitioner, and I do that about 3 days a week, 3 to 4 days a week. And I work with groups as well. So sometimes I put out a call for an open group, and I've been working with open groups. And with Mina, for instance, I worked with a group of garment worker women based in Bangalore, and it was a Kannada facilitated session, which was lovely. We ran it for about 2.5 months. And so some of my work is pro bono and some of my work is paid, and now it's become sustainable for me, and I hope for it to be more sustainable going forward. And my background is that I'm a lawyer by education, but I went into experiential learning and facilitation from the get-go after I graduated. And so I have experience as a coach. I'm a certified NLP coach, and I've worked as a facilitator in different settings with organizations, corporates, with NGOs in the development sector, and so on. And my inclination was always that, my feeling was always that the work I do with myself, my own inner work, was deeper than the work I do with clients. And I wanted a training that will sort of bridge that gap, and I could do depth work with my clients as well. And I think FECAT really was that bridge for me. And I hope that Expressive Body and other programs I might do in the future will only deepen that work. So my direction is in the line of depth psychology, that's for sure. And so FECAT was really a foundational program, and I think that's very right to say that it gives you all the skills and the sort of the training and the confidence really to hold that space for a client to explore in depth using the arts, which really taps into your unconscious. So yeah, that's what I would say about my experience. I'm happy to answer any questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhargavi. So which takes us to the next part. Another question I would like to ask all of you. So I mean, speaking from personal experience, I started seeking mental health support after the first wave of the pandemic, which meant that all my sessions until now has been like online with my therapist. But the small difference is that mine is talk therapy. So I was also wanting to understand how your experience has been, one with respect to learning expressive art therapy in a online platform, since we are now following a kind of hybrid model with a certain number of sessions online and a few days of training in person. And then how has your experience been with clients as well in an online platform in the framework of expressive arts therapy? Bhargavi, your year was fully online, so maybe you can jump in. And
Sure, Sathwik, I'm happy to answer that. Yeah, Brinda.
Sorry, hi Bhargavi. I also wondered if you can, as you speak, if you can tell us a little bit about what, since you've had experience in both, a little bit about what you think is the difference between coaching and EXA. What is, and there are a lot of similarities, but if you could just talk a little bit about what's the difference, and then therefore with depth psychology and as a container, what you think is the difference.
Sure, Brinda.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll answer Sathwik's question first and then come to what you asked. The online experience, of course, there's a limitation because, we are across the screen, and the energy that we can feel when we're bodies in a room, it's different. I acknowledge that. But nevertheless, I feel that personally, my process when I went through FECAT was I didn't find any major issues other than sometimes maybe an internet connection drops or, and which can happen to anyone. But other than that, I had my materials with me, and it was a more solo journey in a way, like although we're in a group, my own process was solo, but you come back and you're debriefing with another colleague over in a breakout room, or you're bringing your process into the larger group and there's discussion happening. So I didn't feel like it was very isolating or anything like that. It was fine because I still felt like we were, and my batch particularly, I think we were all pretty close, and we had a lot of fun, even though it was online, and we met up multiple times, in Bangalore whenever we could, whoever was available. So that sense of camaraderie and the sense of being together was definitely present, at least for me. I don't know if I can speak for everyone, but for me it was. Otherwise, working with materials and different forms of expressive arts also, I think, is very possible online. Like I work with my clients, and also when I experienced the program, we do need a certain space and privacy, and we've got to ensure all these things are there. But once it's there, there are movement processes that are possible on Zoom. And yes, you can't observe all the minute nuances of expression and body for sure, but still there's an overarching sense that you get. And there have been a lot of movement-based work. I do a lot of body-based work in my sessions with my clients, and it's very possible. And even art, whatever materials the client has, they bring. So it could just be a set of crayons, or some people want to go all out and bring watercolors, whatever they have, and you work with what you have. And for me, having it online is really a blessing, because right now I'm in Havelock in the Andamans, and I have good internet, and I am still working. So I work 3 to 4 days a week, and then I'm diving or swimming the other time. So just the geographical freedom that you get by being online is like, I wouldn't have been able to do this if I was. So there are some benefits to it, which I'm just highlighting, I think, because it's really working for me. That's all I would say. Coming to Brinda's question about the difference between coaching and expressive arts therapy, I find that EXA goes very deep very soon. Like you can dive right into the core if you're sensitive to what it is that's really bothering the client, or where is it that exploration needs to happen. And if you can catch that and facilitate an arts-based process around it, whether it's entering the feeling through a free drawing, or you hold the feeling and move it, and then maybe move the opposite and see what comes up, whatever it is that the process is. If you can enter there within the first 30 minutes of the session, you can get to the meat of it. And then it's really exploring all around it, which can have intentional interviewing and all the other skills also that FECAT offers, right? That where we learn how do we hold that space using talk, which is very common with coaching, like in the sense that where you're asking deeper questions, you're analyzing where is that belief coming from, or what exactly is that belief, or so on and so forth. There's many ways of exploring through talk. But I think the missing or the sort of the part that coaching takes a long time to kind of get to that place, whereas arts-based work and expressive arts therapy can go there soon if the client is ready. Of course, if the client is not ready, then you want to be patient and not forcing anything. But if the client is ready, then just it happens deeper, and therefore the shifts are more powerful. In my experience, again, I also am very biased towards the arts because I'm an arts practitioner myself, and it's done so much good for me. I also feel like it's possible to express certain things in the arts which you just can't do using language. It's a limit. I mean, there's certain things you just can't express, which you can move, and you can, like, for example, if frustrated, you just want to go like, and you can just do that, but it's going to take you, I don't know, you can't do that through language, by talking about it patiently. So that's, I would say, I'm sorry if I've been articulating it sort of all over the place, but yeah.
Thank you, Bhargavi. Dinesh, would you like to take over and share your experience?
Yeah, sure.
With online training.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with what Bhargavi said. It was the same for me. But I also want to add, all my personal therapy sessions are also online. I met my therapist online for the whole program, and I continue to meet my therapist online even now. So what it did for me was to give me the flexibility to be able to feel present, within the space that felt very safe for me. Because I did mention about my health setback, and I've had two surgeries on my spinal cord, and they were disc removal surgeries. So traveling around in a place like Bangalore for me would have caused a little bit of distress. And so to be able to do that consistently and to also focus and also to do the inner work, for me at that point in time was overwhelming when I entered the program, right? So I think for me it was a blessing in disguise, to be very honest, because I was able to really focus on doing my inner work and being with my body in its entirety through all the sessions, and still have the amount of flexibility and support that I needed, And to give you an example, even in Brinda sessions, there have been times when I've spoken to Brinda about how I felt on a particular day, and my readiness to be, because my concentration and motivation levels would really fluctuate with how much pain I was feeling on a particular day, so on and so forth. Through all of that, having this flexibility to participate online was really the biggest factor for me to consistently finish the program. And I think I've not missed more than 3 or 4 sessions in the whole program. And I think that was possible because it was online, And I still remember a conversation with Brinda on a particularly difficult day, and she said, bringing yourself to the session in whichever manner and whichever way you are in the moment is itself the work, right? And for me, it was very, very, I think, transformational, because towards the end of the program, a lot of the work that I did was body-based work with my clients. And very interestingly, a lot of the modalities that I used in my sessions with the clients were all body-based and movement-based. So personally, for me, it was a big, I would say an eye-opener, because yes, like Bhargavi said, we did have those apprehensions when we began the program, whether, because therapy for me and my experience of therapy with whoever I know in my life has all been in person, right? So we came with that apprehension, but I would say that even now I continue to meet all my clients online, and like Bhargavi said, the flexibility that it gives to operate and to meet clients from whichever location you are at, that is a big advantage. Yes, I do acknowledge that meeting and having sessions offline would be a different experience in itself. But I think that's the whole point of having the continued education and the learning program with SMART. You do get that option to go and attend workshops once in a while. So you can definitely enhance your learning experience by meeting offline as well. But in no way do I think that my training as a expressive arts therapist has fallen short because of the online medium. Yeah.
Thank you, Dinesh. Maina and Nidhi, you have I assume you have a slightly different journey. I guess you trained for FECAT in person, whereas now your participants are Expressive Body program, which is an advanced program. Would you like to share some insights that you have with respect to doing one program in person and doing another program virtual, and how you kind of hold it?
Yeah, you're right in what you said in terms of my program. The 2018 FECAT was completely offline. And this EXP program, which is the expressive body that I'm doing right now, has been completely online. Actually, maybe a little bit of a hybrid, because we did have a retreat where we got to meet as a group and experience some of the sessions offline too. I think there are, to be very honest, I think there are pros and cons of both. As FECAT, I did, as I said, since I did everything physically, there was this whole separation of space, let's say, for me, because and one thing that I would like to say, I think in terms of the participation itself, is that a lot of what everybody else has spoken about, so I really don't want to repeat some of those other things in terms of, but I think one thing that I'm experiencing in EXP specifically is just the abundance of trainers. Yeah, and the ability to be able to work with such acclaimed, I mean, Katya's here. Thanks, Katya, for coming in. But I especially have really enjoyed Katya's sessions, and whether she is, I don't know where she was before, but now I think she's in Amsterdam, and she had these sessions for us from there. So just this ability to be able to be trained by people otherwise I can't imagine even meeting has been the greatest, I think, experience for me, to add to everything else that people have said. FECAT being physical definitely taught me, I feel like, the attunement and stuff, but now that I'm trained offline, I can definitely take them all very much online quite organically. So I don't know if I'm a little biased like that, but no, I have had no issues taking my sessions online. In fact, actually, I have experienced both ways. My therapist initially was offline because during those days, FECAT was also offline. And then I continue with the same therapist online. In therapy, I believe a lot of it is about attunement. And yes, I think the screen does bring in a sense of separation, but it really, this is how we all communicate now. So I think it is the world that we live in now. So in some sense, this is the world that we experience, especially when I work with younger clients. I do see that they have absolutely no inhibitions. There is no difference. They communicate with friends like this. They communicate with their world like this. So this is how they experience it. So I feel like maybe it's a little bit of my own bias too. So, but for me, it's all about attunement. If I think I am attuned to the client, which is really about my own presence. Yeah, there are days we are not all there, but at the same time, what I mean is that could be physical or offline or online. It is really about that. And I do agree with Dinesh in terms of what he said. I do have clients who feel safer in their own spaces. I do feel that trust actually builds faster in some strange way, because I'm in my safe place, you're in your safe place. And then we have learned to trust this screen in between. So I think with the two really deep aspects of therapy, which is about safety, trust, and attunement, we can do things. And like Nidhi, I think, was mentioning, we don't see everybody. In fact, I actually got to meet my clients who I've been seeing offline this week because they were there for their retreat, the FECAT retreat. And yes, it is also nice to see them, fully from top to bottom and to be able to move with them. But it doesn't take away from anything. And if anything, it actually gives us the opportunity to work with more people and to actually adapt to the changing world. I feel, this is kind of where we are today, being online. That said, a lot of my clients today are actually from outside Bangalore, definitely. I had a few clients, a couple outside the country, who traveled outside the country, and a young student actually who was seeing me from outside the country. Indian, I think Indians residing outside the country actually feel very much more comfortable and culturally connected to work with Indian therapists. So that was the reason I understood they would like to work with us. So I think borders has really diminished in that sense. But I must say, Sathwik, that I feel very fortunate to be experiencing it both ways, physical, and I do take all the opportunity, like Dinesh said, to attend the offline workshops, actually meet people, spend time with them. So yes, that helps too. That helps even in general attunement, I would say, just to get to know people.
Thank you, Maina. Nidhi?
Yeah, I guess everyone's covered sort of a lot of things that are very, very pertinent. Access, flexibility, reach. And just to reiterate what Maina said, the kind of trainers we worked with in Expressive Body, Katya, Kate, Tina, I mean, I couldn't have imagined any other way how we would have been able to work with some of these absolutely fantabulous people who are like icons in the world of expressive arts therapy. Having said that, I feel that for me personally, Expressive Body Online has worked very well because it's a program which is very, very intense. And it has given me that safe space to engage with something so deep and intense, and then also get back to my safe space, right? Just when the class ends. So for me, just when the class would end at say 1, for me, immediately going back to my life and grounding has been immensely helpful. And that actually helped me sail through a program of that nature of intensity and deep work. And so I wouldn't, it's hard to say which is better or worse. I guess both ways of working are very different. And online is required. Like Mina said, I also see most of my clients online. And in fact, just have 2 clients I see in person because they have constraints of safe space where they stay. So it's not possible for them to have online sessions. And that's the only reason we meet offline. But I see most of the people preferring to meet online and all kinds of work, movement and art and psychodrama. I do a lot of meditation and breath work, breathing together with the client. It all happens very beautifully online. And it's like the alignment of energies, I guess, is possible, whether it's offline or online. In fact, offline sometimes it gets challenging because there's a lot of energetic interaction, but online gives that distance to engage. So there is a dipping in and dipping out, and that has sort of been very, I would say, very supportive in my client work. And even if things open up and imagining the utopian scenario, there's no COVID anymore, I guess I would continue to do a lot of my work online and still and do maybe a bit of it offline. So I really feel that there is absolutely no way that online becomes any kind of limitation. Things are absolutely possible.
Thank you, Nidhi. I would like to move on to another question that I had. Atmika, maybe you can start with this. So, what has been your journey after FECAT? How has your professional journey been? What are your plans for the future? How do you how do you think the FECAT program and your professional journey got bridged um, in your story?
Right. So, like I said, I think the FECAT training set the foundation to first understand what I wanted to do in my life professionally. And also, it was quite a personally enriching journey because one, you're learning so much about yourself and you're doing it through very, very, um, you know, different modalities. I don't think we are as a society, automatically prone to looking at um, the creative tools to understand yourself in that way. It wasn't something I grew up with, at least. uh, I think for me what happened was I just knew that, okay, right, this is something I can do professionally. And that was also because of my training at FECAT. It was because of the way I was because I did a master's in dance movement therapy right after. And I do think that when I joined my MA and I did this abroad, um, a lot of my classmates would ask me how I was already so like I was very settled in the course. The creative to like expressive arts therapy can be a bit vague for a lot of people. You can talk about it and talk about it, and there's just still that little, you just don't get it when you're explaining it with words, right? And I didn't have that issue because I did this whole year of very intense, very, very intense and very, very, I'd say extremely top notch training because I have also done the MA, and what we have covered over 2 years, I think yeah, I would say I did the same thing or even more in the 1 year that I did my FECAT training. So it definitely gave me that edge, and I just knew what it would take to be a therapist. Okay, so I knew that, and then it was just a question of building it and building it with the tools I wanted to sort of have as a therapist. And I also then got to know that expressive arts is understood and practiced by quite, there are many ways to do it, and there are very different approaches in different cultures and different countries. And um, what FECAT gave me was one, we had some classes from trainers abroad as well, so there was that sense of knowing what's happening out there, which is quite hard. We don't have that access in India and many other places. So another reason why when I actually went abroad to do my masters, I didn't feel very lost. I did feel like I came in with a lot of understanding. And I was very comfortable with my, it was a 2-year, very rigorous MA program. And I did that through the pandemic. So my thesis and everything else happened through the pandemic. But I think the anchoring and being able to hold that for those 2 years personally definitely came from my training at FECAT. So yeah, I think what it did for me was give me clarity on what to do professionally, and I just had to sort of find avenues to um, build that. I wouldn't say that doing a master's abroad is the only way to make this career feasible or possible for anyone, especially if you're practicing in India. It's not necessary. It was something I had the opportunity to do, so I did it, and it has, of course, helped me and given me a lot of tools and skills and experience. But at the same time, I think it's about knowing that, okay, there's the arts and there's psychology, and it's about bridging the two. And I think SMART is one of those few training centers in India which does that quite well, where you are given enough training in psychology and enough training in creative expressive tools to hold the two together. You can always go away after this and do a master's in psychology if that's something or you can just really practice without that too. um, Given the current situation in India, where we don't have a regularizing body and none of that is, we don't require to do anything further, because I do think this course is quite holistic and does cover quite a lot on its own. So I do think the course, I think, when everybody was talking about which is the online and the offline, and I just think the nature of this work is such that it will just take you where you're meant to go. There's just that need to trust that this work will lead you to that place, whether it's online or offline. There are advantages, disadvantages. That's one level of it, but then just the work itself, it's that powerful and also that simple, that you're just holding a pen, there's a piece of paper, and just things happen. So it's yeah, I think that you can talk about it and jot down the pros and cons, but I really think that the way the course is designed and the way the thing happens, you will know by the end of it. A lot of my classmates decided that therapy wasn't for them at the end of it, but then they got a lot else from the training. So it's really, really knowing that this work will take you where you're meant to go. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Atmika. Uh, uh, Dinesh, one of the things that I kind of find fascinating, and I do feel that more and more people who identify themselves as men should come into this work, should come into our programs and stuff. So I just wanted to ask you your experience and I mean the kind of maybe. Uh, of course, how you have been able to bridge the program with your practice, and do you see that at least among your clients, what is the kind of what are the genders uh, that I mean, which are there more men who are interested in this work, and how was your experience, stuff around it?
Um, I could see some of you all kind of come forward like that, or it's just my. Um, I think it's a question that I'm still discovering so much more about. But that being said, I think it's very powerful for me personally to have gone through the program and to have gotten in touch with my own feminine, uh, which kind of really gave a shape and a form to something that I knew was always there within me, and whether it is in my parenting, whether it's in the way I take care of my body, whether it's in the way I look at world, the outside world in my day-to-day living, all of this has kind of really taken a slightly more clearer form and shape after the program. And I know that answer is very vague because the men that I meet in my practice, uh, I do feel that there is an instant language that we both are able to share, because some of the experiences that they have gone through, some of the stories that they have lived through, some especially around especially related to topics around shame and guilt. It's a certain language that we share instantaneously, and that's something I'm discovering a lot in my practice. I am also meeting clients who from all genders who specifically ask to work with male therapists, and I'm often part of conversations which center around the need for more male therapists in this space. And I'm so thrilled, in fact, to know that I think there are more number of male trainees in the batch that followed my batch, and I hope that continues to grow. And I wish to do EXB very, very soon. So what it has done to the space is that whether it's in my own private life or whether it's in my practice, I'm able to kind of experience a certain aspect to being a cis male, which I wouldn't have experienced otherwise. I wouldn't have had the language to kind of go and express myself and claim it and kind of own it while continuing to identify as a man. So that's I don't know whether it's making sense for you all, but it's very, very powerful and very powerful healing. When you claim yourself in that space, in that therapeutic space, and it's safe for your client to also claim it. If it's a male client, and it also sometimes opens up avenues for clients from other gender to discuss about the men in their life, with me. So I think through the program, I was the only male trainee in my batch, but I was so proud of being one among the women, and I really didn't. I was very thrilled, because I think there were only two times through the entire program that I was asked a question like this: "Oh, you are a male trainee. How does it feel?" And I had to really think and say, "Oh, okay. I have to now think and answer. What does it feel to be a male trainee?" But otherwise, I think it kind of opened up a certain space for me to learn from. Look at all my batchmates and ask them questions and understand parts of my own feminine side, which I would have never experienced or known about, were it not for this training. So I don't know how well that answers the question. I still think I'm struggling to articulate very clearly what does it mean to be a male therapist, but I know for sure that my life as a man and the parent that I am, the person that I am as a partner in a relationship in my family has completely changed after the program, right? And I really wish that more male therapists or men, do this program, not to become therapists, but just as a part of exploring their feminine, I really wish that. Yeah. I'm so thrilled to see that you're here, Sathwik.
Sorry?
I'm so thrilled to see that you're here, right? We are the only two men, and I think it's so powerful, for me to see. And I can also tell you that a bunch of my men and male friends have found the interest and the need to go to therapy, after they've seen me do this program. And I think that's very powerful as well.
Thank you very much, Dinesh. Maina, Nidhi, and Bhargavi, would you like to add your journeys of your professional journeys after FECAT and how it has been?
I can go. I have something very crisp and
sure,
short.
Sathwik. Go ahead, Nidhi.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a break in my internet. Yeah, so I actually did FECAT that's how I started, that I want to embark on my personal journey and do something besides spirituality. And I never thought I will end up becoming a therapist. But it's just the potency of this work that led me to, taking it up. And I'm practicing, I'm seeing clients, individuals, as well as groups. But I would say that just to sort of reiterate what Dinesh said, and I think what Atmika also said at a certain point of time, FECAT is not just for somebody therapist. It's a beautiful journey that someone may want to undertake to just sort of feel more and more intimate with themselves. So the potential is a lot more than really it being just a career option. In fact, in walking home to oneself, it can open up many different paths as well. Yeah.
Maina, you were.
Yeah, no, I think I would pretty much second what Nidhi says. I don't think I walked into FECAT thinking that I would be a therapist for the rest of my life. And in fact, I don't know if I would say that even now. I feel like it is, I really, and going back to what Atmika said, it's just trusting this process itself. I must say that I've started enjoying, and I can see Brinda smiling because I've started enjoying not knowing. And this is big coming from somebody like me. I was a person who planned my life and who knew exactly what I was going to do when I was like 6 years old, I guess. But maybe that's a part of the thing that I had to uncover. But that said, no, I just enjoy really not knowing where this work is going to take me. There are new openings every day. I never thought that I would be seeing so many clients, in the sense like it would be such a flourishing practice. I remember having discussions with Brinda saying, how could I ever, would I be able, how will I bring clients on was a big discussion in itself. And really it just happens. The world needs this work, I believe. And I think it's a lot of, like everybody has been saying, it's really about us just healing ourselves. And I think one soul at a time, and I'm not healed by any means yet, but I'm just saying that's the whole process of, just doing it one at a time. Being from the corporate space, or rather having worked in organizations, I want to say I always felt like my work was so far away from the effect, like the people it touched. And here it is so close that it's really warming. So even if I have one session every day, I go back feeling I've done something today. And that's really enough for today. So actually, when you ask me about my future plans, I mean, for once, I want to say I don't have much, and I'm absolutely okay with it, which is very hard for me. But as in, I can't imagine that I'm saying that. But I think that's a part of what FECAT does for me. I do want to acknowledge that I feel like it's a whole second life. I mean, I've been one of those who've been there, done that. I've lived that whole rushed world and escaping into the busyness and all of that. But I enjoy the calm now. I'm happy that I found it now, at least. And in some strange ways, COVID helped, man. It like really shut the world down and everybody relaxed with me. But yeah, I'm happy to say today that I don't know what I'm going to do next. And I trust that it will be good by me. Yeah. So thanks.
Yeah, I just want to add a little something there. I think when we are entering something which is so not knowing, and there's that sense of flow and freedom, there's also a need for safe and very strong containment, which I really think FECAT did give me. It can be a workshop, it can be anything, but like those 3 days of training, which I remember, it was a 9 to 4 affair for us that time. There was that sense of is everyone stuck or is it just me? I don't know. Can everyone hear
I
me?
think your internet is a little bit up and down, but we can.
Okay. You can hear me?
We can
Okay,
hear you
yeah.
now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I was saying that safe containment, it really it makes or breaks the deal, really. And I really think for me, FECAT gave me that. It was a very, there was a lot of, there was an expectation to experience and explore, but not without sort of being held safely, not without that. There was therapy, there was supervision, there was a group, there were people that, and that's, I think it's quite essential to the work itself. So I will say, because also I have done other trainings, and I do know that when you are in a training to become a therapist, or to, there is a focus that, okay, you get on with things to become that. But here there was always that thing of, no, no, wait, tune into yourself and see how much you can go, how far you can go, and only then go, which is something, it's quite rare to have a balance between both. So yeah, I'll say that definitely helped.
Thank you very much, Atmika. Bhargavi, do you want to have the final word on this? And we'll move on to Monica and Branda.
Sure, Sathwik. I already mentioned sort of what's been my journey after. So I sort of seamlessly was seeing clients. I personally enjoy individual clients much more than group clients, simply because you go deeper, and the exploration is more consistent over a longer period of time. And I also want to say that I'm seeing my personal therapist. That's an ongoing thing, and that's been online. I have my supervisor, Brinda, continues. I continue to consult her after FECAT, and that's an ongoing thing. So I have this support structure with me, my therapist, my supervisor, my colleagues, who are also big support system, to just talk to them and see, what's happening, and even to talk about certain things that are happening in the professional zone. So I think all of this support system continues after FECAT for me, and I see myself training more. And for instance, I did that design workshop after my FECAT, like Atmica and Nidhi were discussing. So that was very interesting to go to the physical space and do that. So I want to continue to train both online with trainers who are not accessible in person, as well as to whatever opportunities present themselves in person. So it's an ongoing process really for me. It's simultaneously exploring myself and my psyche, as well as offering that space for others where that exploration can happen. So I really see it as, this is something I finally, after changing so many careers and really saying, no, this is not for me, this is not for me, finally I feel like I've really come to a place where I can say, this, I can see myself doing this for many, many years. So I'm calm now. I'm not like I'm not so stressed anymore. So yeah, that's what it is for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhargavi. And then thank you, everyone, all the alumni who made time for this, came here and shared your journeys. Before handing it over to Monica and Brinda, I just want to say for all those who are interested in the program, or who might know somebody who might be interested in the program, we are also trying to make our space more inclusive. We are looking for, we encourage folks from Dalit, Bahujan, Adivasi backgrounds, notified tribes, denotified tribes, people who identify themselves as trans or non-binary. So we encourage all of you to apply, and we will offer support in whatever way we can. We are learning. We are not saying that, we have, but this is a journey that we would like to make, and we would love for all of you to be part of it. Handing it over to Monica now.
Hi, it's great to just see the alumni all together in one place. For all those who are keen to understand more of FECAT, if you want to just turn on your videos, the alumni is here. You can ask them any questions that you think you want answered. Brinda and I will of course now cover some technicalities on the program design, like certification and affiliation and all of that. But anything else that you may want to speak to the alumni? I know a lot of you inquire and ask me to be put in touch with alumni. So here is the opportunity. Would love to see all of y'all. I know there is, let me just see who all are attending.
I also just want to very quickly say thank you. It was so great to hear each of you all speak. Thank you so much for taking this time to be here. You know, it was really, it's heartwarming to hear you all speak. Thank you for that. And it's lovely to see Katya and Sukhinder. Complete surprise, but thank you for being here. It's so great to see you all. For those of you who are here, both Katya and Sukhinder are faculty on the Expressive Body program. So yeah, thank you all for being here.
Okay, so if we don't have any questions, yeah, go ahead, Anushka.
I have a question for Dinesh and for Bhargavi. So you guys did the online program, and I just want to ask, how was the program immersive for you throughout the year? Because I know that it's only on the weekends mostly. And if you are working side by side as well, or what are you doing like besides doing FECAT? And yeah, is it like is there given like assignments during the week to keep you like immersed in the program, and or that there's like a lot of freedom and you can travel and do other things, and then on the weekend it's like a hook. So just to know like your experience like that. Thank you.
Okay, so see, a bunch of us were working full time in our batch. A bunch of us were working full time. A bunch of us had other careers, and then were also doing the program side by side. In my case, I didn't have any other commitments, but I do remember that it was a very sustainable mix for me, because during the weekends, on the days when we had the training, it would be a day-long training, and then I required a few days to process what happened, and also to kind of go and do the self-work. That is eventually the cornerstone of this program, right? But I don't think anyone in my batch, as far as I remember, really faced like a situation where they were not able to completely balance, and it was not easy, definitely, for people who are working. They had to take out time, but the kind of time that they took out ended up being very powerful for their journey, right? To whatever extent that they could take out time. So I think each person really figured out a way to make their journey their own. In my case, I think I felt it was the right decision for me not to have any other commitments, because I needed this, especially looking at my health and the way things were stacked up. So I could kind of design and customize the program to my needs. I think that is the biggest advantage. But yes, I do acknowledge that it is not the same for everyone. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
So sorry.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, more also that is it immersive enough? Like if you just have on the weekend this program, so during the week, are there assignments given, or like what is it like? Because I'm also like really interested in different kinds of therapy and healing modalities. So I'm enrolled myself in different classes. So I just want to know, like, is just the class on the weekends enough, and maybe it's better to like leave it free because there's gonna be assignments, or it's okay to like also keep studying other things side by side, and maybe traveling, or yeah, just want to know that.
I think, if I may, Bhargavi, I think is the right person to answer, because she did do a bunch of things. I think it'll be nice to hear from her.
Yeah, so Anushka, thank you for that question. So it's sort of, I think, about an average about 5 days, right? So it's like Saturdays and some weekends, it's both Friday and Saturday. So I mean, typically I would leave my Sunday totally free. Like Dinesh said, sometimes the processes can be intense or very involving, and I wanted that space so I wouldn't have anything immediately after that. But during the week, I was still working as a facilitator. So I was running some programs for adolescents, kids. I was doing some other work. But it wasn't, because I'm a sort of an independent practitioner and I'm not working full time with an organization. I had time to read, I had time to do my sessions or the other work that I was doing, but it wasn't so packed. And also it was during the pandemic and it's kind of still the same. So I think it was pretty balanced for me, that I had enough space to explore, do other things. And I joined a bunch of classes, like I was learning Kalaripayattu, where Atmica was also in my class. I was so excited to see her here. And, so other things, right? Like other ways of exploring the body and reading and so on. So, and just doing art on your own. And to your point about assignments, there aren't really like, there are certain must-do assignments that are given, but there are also like a lot of invitations to sort of explore that on your own. And it's really up to you how much you want to sort of take it into your life and go into it and explore. And you can give it a lot of time if you want to. It's also, it's really up to each person. So the program is quite flexible that way. It sort of speaks to each one, depending on how much you want to be involved and how much you want to. But there are certain mandatory things that you must do. But I wouldn't say it takes like all 5 days of the week to do just that assignment. It's not like you can't do other things, right? So, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'd just like to add, sorry, go ahead, Dinesh.
Okay. For me, I think the work that I did outside of the sessions was also as much of a learning and as much of material as what happened in the sessions, because end of the day, this is an experiential program, right? So everything that you learn, you do refine as you integrate it in your day-to-day life. When you go out of the session, I especially remember Brinda's sessions, and that's really the journey, right? The material is your own life, your own experience, and the learning happens continuously on an ongoing basis. And as Bhargavi said, every person gets to customize it and kind of mold it according to their own readiness and according to their journey. But the learning is continuous, and I think it was a very good balance of rigor and enough space to kind of reflect and kind of do your own private inner work as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would really say that, Saturdays is class, keep your Sundays free to be able to process the spillover which may happen. Fridays also, we have once a week, one Friday of the month we have class. For about first 2 months, it's quite relaxed. And after that, when we begin internships, you will probably be doing your internships on a non-training day, which is not on a Friday or a Saturday. So you'll be doing your internships either on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Once the internships begin to get more and more rigorous, you have to do 50 hours at the end during the whole year. You will also be doing supervisions. So, internships will happen one day. You'll need half a day. You'll need about 2-3 hours any other day to document what has happened during your internships. You will be doing personal work, which will be about an hour, 24 hours of personal work through the year. So once every alternate weeks, you'll be doing personal work. Supervision will happen. So I feel it's intermittent. It's not very hectic, but I would really think Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and one more day of the week would be dedicated to FECAT. So, yeah.
Can I add to that, Monica? I just want to say that I feel like FECAT is like packing. It fills up as much time you give it. If you pack in the last 1 hour, or whether you keep the whole weekend to pack. And the more time you give it, the more you get from it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then the rest is your choice.
Samyukta, you had some questions?
Yeah, and really it's okay if you don't have a lot of time, but I'll just put it out here.
Yeah.
So one of the first questions that I had was, first of all, it was great to listen to everyone's experiences. I had a bunch of questions and dissonances, which kind of evaporated as I heard more and more over the last hours. That was great. Thanks a lot. So the first question, I kind of wanted to understand some dissonances that you might have had with, say, the theory or something personally, anything at all, just dissonances and discomfort. And of course, that leads to a space of learning and all of that later. But really wanted to just understand if anyone had certain dissonances and discomforts with like the theory, et cetera, and just how you also work through it. Because sometimes like we come with certain X's and someone throws an O at you and you need to kind of learn how to engage with that. So wanted to understand what that O might have been that got thrown at you and how you engaged with it. And I'll actually pause and then go to the next question. But if anyone could share about that, would love to listen to that.
I'm assuming you want the alumni to answer that, or the program designers.
Legit, anyone can answer it. I want to listen. That's it. Any experience at all. Yeah. I think Dinesh was starting to answer.
Go ahead, Dinesh.
Yeah.
We kind of use our tried and tested method of putting up our hand and then we know who all. I think it's a great question for me personally, because off the top of my mind, my relationship with my body and being a man and getting in touch with my emotional space. These were two things that I can really kind of, and I don't know how, it may not be the same for everyone, right? But for me, to be able to come into the program knowing that I may have to move, I may have to dance, all of that, I had kind of really packed a pretty huge backpack of all of those dissonances and kind of bring it into the program. The way it dissipated is with trust and with safety, and I don't mean to sound cliched, but to be able to trust that your body knows how to kind of feel and do what it wants to do, was, I think, a big starting point for me, because I come from a background where the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. It's all about result orientation, and that's my training, that's my life. For me to be able to move in a certain way was the goal, but I think through the program, and it did take a long time. I think only towards the end of the program did I really kind of see myself completely accepting what, the body that I have, and the power it holds and the transformation that can come from just being who I was. I think that is, I don't know how specifically that answered your question, but that was a big shift for me. And I think also the emotions, and I remember a session where it just didn't make sense to me to be feeling something, so I could just rattle off the top of my my attentiveness and my mind, oh, these are all the feelings that I'm feeling right now, and it was endless. But to actually pause and feel it, the first time I felt it was pretty transformational, right? So I remember those few instances where I allowed myself to cry, for instance, right? And feel guilt and shame, for instance. So things like that. And I think others can also add, but for me, those are from the top of my mind. Yeah.
Also, Samyukta, I'll say from the organizational perspective and as program designers, every year we have this curveball. There's always something that, and I think last year we took a decision to make our programs more inclusive, and we opened it out and we had a good response. And for me, I find it's been very challenging, the language that I have been using, which is so oppressive without me knowing, and when we talk about honesty and we talk about integrity without realizing that honesty is so closely related to disclosure, which is traumatic for most people, and it's really, so I think for most of the trainers, and even though we've done this for so many years, every year is a learning. And I think that's the reason why we do it as well. We're not, it's not, I mean, I don't think trainees can grow if the trainers are not growing, so, and I know that we're not hearing the difficulties, but it is tough. I think it challenges you on many levels. It challenges, the trainers are challenged on many levels, and that's the learning, and that's yeah. So definitely expect a lot of that.
I also want to add a little bit to that there definitely is discomfort, there is pain, there is struggle, but that's where the growth happens. Because because it's like entering honest, vulnerable spaces, and there is dropping of personas and defense mechanisms that we would have been carrying for our entire lives. And it's not easy. But I would say that it's definitely worth it. It's so enriching to sort of lay ourselves bare to ourselves and then see the truth of ourselves. And that's not a very cushy, comfortable thing to do. It is hard.
I just want to add something else, which is something that many people, including me in my batch, sort of confronted, is the working with different modalities with different trainers, right? So when some sessions, and it's all sort of intermixed, right? So you have an art therapy session, then you have a movement therapy session, then you have a therapeutic communication, and it's sort of mixed. And initially our question was, okay, so, and the invitation is also to experience it, to just be there and let the process sort of take you with it and see what material comes up from yourself, which is 101, right? You got to work with yourself first before you can work with anyone else. And while we were doing that and experiencing it, I think one part of our minds were asking, so how does this all come together, right? Like, what is expressive arts therapy? How do you go from art to movement, or how do you go from movement to intentional interviewing or therapeutic communication? How do you integrate all this? So that was a big struggle for me, and including many of us initially in the first, I'd say 3-4 months, when it's very experiential, right? And the way that sort of resolved for us is when we really started the internships. When you're working with real clients and you have your supervisor who's helping you tie it together, and you can only do it that way. You can't do it theoretically saying that this is how it will flow and this is how the session flow should be, and you can't. So when you experience it in a session, and when you go through that sort of churn of figuring out the first few internships, I think then after the first 5, and then that it's also quite structured quite nicely, where initially it's with your own batchmates, and then they are your clients, and then you have sessions with each other, sort of peer interviews sort of thing. Then you do peer expressive arts, and then you go to external clients. So after about 10 of those, I was like, oh, okay, it's all making sense now. So that was a big dissonance. The other thing for me was thinking too much. In expressive arts, you sort of have to drop your thinking mind, not drop, but not intellectualizing things. And I think I come from that sort of a background, or sort of an orientation where I'm used to intellectualizing, needing it to be clear. And sometimes it's not clear, like Maina was saying, you got to be open to what you don't know. You don't know what's going to come up, and to be okay with that discomfort. So growing out of that was a very big learning for me. It was big growth. It's still happening. I wouldn't say it's complete. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, that's a point that I would want to second too, and that's kind of what I said even in my sharing before. Just the fact that we believe, or rather grew up believing, that you have a plan in life, and then there is a way that things are supposed to happen, and then letting go of that, and just trusting. I think some of the things, as Dinesh says, it might sound really cliche, but that really there is no right or wrong when it comes to feelings, when it comes to emotions, and there is no need to make sense of everything, and just to experience things by itself is it. This, I think, I mean, yes, either you call it conceptually or theoretically, are big lessons of life, how you kind of lead your life. So for me, when you say theory, I don't know what you mean, but really conceptually, as in just how I led my life and how I thought was, yeah. Like Bhargavi says, not that you kind of give it away, but you really see how you integrate that, how that adds to who you are, then takes it away from you. Yeah. So that's kind of, that's really been how I have traveled through it, how I have worked through that, to not really disown any part of me, but to see how it adds to who I am. And I think that whole integration and a lot of blind spots that kind of come alive is how I experience this.
I see a raised hands from Pune. I know, Samyukta, you've got one more question. I just want to go around to see if anybody else has. Yes, she's all the way from Sri Lanka. So do unmute your mic and go ahead and ask.
Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you all. So I'm from India, but I now live in a small town called Batiklo in Eastern Sri Lanka. I'm looking to do the FECAT if possible, mostly to kind of find some, I don't know what the word is, some sort of I don't want to say structure, but that's what's coming up right now, to work that I feel like I have been doing for a long time now as a theater practitioner who's engaged in movements for social change. And now more than ever in a much more sort of very locally grounded way in a community in and around this area, and entirely in Tamil. So I think I had two, as in like I don't speak English at all, except if I'm in meetings with people in other cities. So everything I've learned otherwise in my life also is just undergoing a translation. And that's what I'll be doing at FECAT also. Everything I learn, I will be translating into Tamil as I learn, which I'm always excited to do. I think my two questions were, one is whether there's a possibility to integrate some of the things that I'm already doing, which is movement-based and which is in groups. I don't really do individual work. And in the context of post-war trauma, and with groups of young women and gender non-conforming people, queers, etc., who are from the north and east of Sri Lanka. So I wouldn't be able to pull out of what I'm doing completely to do this, but what I'm doing I know is very much along the same lines of what FECAT is about as well. So but at the same time, I'm looking forward to putting aside the weekends to do this for an entire year, right? Because I think I also need that grounding now. So I think my question is, in terms of internships, or whether I would be able to fill those hours through the work that I'm already doing with communities here, and in terms of personal therapy, whether I can continue with my therapist, just because the thought of talking to a new therapist is exhausting. So those are, and the three questions is whether there's any scholarships that one can apply for. I'm not particularly economically, I wouldn't, identify myself as marginalized or oppressed in any way whatsoever, but I've just made life choices, which means that 100,000 Indian rupees is now a lot of money in my life, because I chose to not earn too much money. So if there's scholarships that one can apply for, those are my questions. Thank you so much.
So I'll take two questions and then I'll pass one to Brinda. Yes, you can continue with your own therapist. You'll have to do 24 hours of therapy work during the course of the year, starting from the time that you start training. So let's say if you apply for the January batch, Jan to December, you'll have to do 24 hours of therapy work with your therapist. The other thing is that the beauty about really the program is that since you're working with the arts, there is language used for processing, but what language you use is really immaterial. In fact, during my batch, I was the second batch, we had a student from Taiwan who was, she was broken English. She understood the training, and she was working with a Kannada group in Bangalore. And she was, I think, one of the top-notch expressive arts therapists that SMART has produced. So language, no barrier. The last thing on scholarships is that, present a case when you are applying, and we take it on a need-based individual cases. We don't have a direct scholarship, but we have in the past helped students raise funds, within our community. This is our 10th year. We've got a lot of supporters who want to fund good work, which is happening. But your case has to be robust. We generally take one person who we fund, who we put, who we let our alumni and our funders know as a special case, and they support. They do extend some amount of support, and then we do give some amount of payment ease, to make your life. We don't follow a very rigid payment plan for special cases, but your case has to be presented. Then we do discuss it with the board, and then we work out something if in whatever capacity we can. So if I've not answered and Brinda wants to chip in something.
No, I think you answered that quite well, Mike.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but it's exciting to hear the work that you're doing, Puni.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Puni's niece or daughter had applied for Arts as a Catalyst. If I'm just so. Yeah.
What?
No, not for Arts as a Catalyst, for Inner Call to Action. Sorry.
No, no niece, no.
No daughter, no niece.
Somebody who you had recommended for Inner Call to Action, which we actually cancelled that term.
Okay.
That was the student program. I think you applied for your daughter.
I don't have a daughter.
From Sri Lanka. There is only one Puni in my database. Okay, I may have been mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're running out of time. We haven't covered certification. We haven't covered affiliation. So Brinda and I are going to do a recording, and we will answer these questions. I'm here 5-10 minutes more if anybody wants to stay back and ask. But thank you, alumni. If y'all could, I'll connect with each of y'all individually and thank you, in my personal capacity for being here. Thank you, Sukhvinder. Thank you, Katya. I was just like, hello, this forum is for people who want to join FECAT, and then we see support from our facilitators and trainers, which is really heartwarming.
Really is.
Yeah.
Really is. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you, everyone. Take care.
Oh, happy to see you, Katya and Sukhvinder.
Kara, I needed some Indian feeling also today in this dark lockdown Amsterdam. So this was really a nice chat and nice conversation. Always so authentic. So thank you for that. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. If anybody wants any questions answered, I'm here for another 5 minutes. Yeah. So otherwise, hey Puni, I got you right. You had applied.
Thank you.
Prerna, you've got a question.
Yeah, hi. I had actually written earlier that I'm currently not doing any therapy work, and neither have I had any exposure to this sort of a space. But what my background is that I'm an e-learning curriculum designer. So I create, learning programs for the healthcare sector, and I've done that for financial sectors and technology, etc., etc. And I'm also a communicator. Like I'm, in the sense, like I'm a communication trainer. I've trained other trainers to be communication trainers. So that's what I want to understand, that the course excites me. I've had Amy tell me a lot about, her experiences when she's been sort of associated with y'all. It seems like this is hard stuff. I'm already employed full-time. So I put in a 9.5 hour every day with my organization. Saturday and Sundays are my haven days. those are days where I tend to sort of, already plan for a lot of activities I want to do with my 5-year-old. I'm still very, very keen about the program, but I still want your honest 2 cents about, firstly, whether this will help me evolve into and, sort of ready myself for broader roles, because I want to continue with e-learning and developing learning solutions, whether that's e-learning or whether that's, in-person training solutions, whatever the case may be. But this is something I want to continue doing. So is this a course that...
Okay, I'm happy to answer that, Prerna. I want to say that this is my opinion, that the minute you enter the depth of who you are, what you offer is that much richer. Yeah. So in that sense, whatever you're doing, if you're willing to traverse the inner and outer landscape, to bring from here to there, what you offer will be that much more richer, because it will have that much more integrity and authenticity. That saying, this program, when I hear about your work and the fact that you have a child, and it's going to be a challenge because it is quite intense. So you have to want to do it. So you can't. You have to want to do it. You have to be interested in yourself, interested in really entering the depths of who you are in order to do it and to justify, because it will be very different from your work. Yeah, which what I know about my colleagues who are friends who are doing e-learning, not colleagues, friends who are doing e-learning, it can be quite product based. There's a lot that needs to be achieved, and this is process based. So you will find that conflict. But if you but I'm going to I will say that this has something for everybody, and maybe you'll find but it's the approach is very different. It's we ask you to slow down, we ask you to look inside, we ask you to be willing to embrace conflict, to embrace discomfort. So we're not solution oriented. We're not asking you to fix things, which is what the corporate world wants you to do. So it's very, very different. Therefore, I think that much richer for you and what you offer, but it has to be something that you want to do, and because it's going to be challenging, because it's two very different. Because people like Bhargavi who are doing facilitation, it's very similar to what FECAT is already doing. So whatever you're learning, you're also applying. Here, true. I don't know, but I think like we really believe at SMART there are two kinds of learning, two kinds of education. One is an education that builds skills, and one is an education that reveals who you are. And I think they have to come together at some point for you to be fully expressed. True. So it's for you to decide whether that point is right.
Right. Thanks for that. And Brinda, one quick question in case, I want to talk about the course more and about what it offers, etc. Is there a possibility of getting in touch with anybody, from Bangalore, etc., and just having like 15-20 minute conversation and still sort of, delving deeper?
So Monica is a student advisor. You can speak to her. But also I would say Maina, because she's done the program, if that's what you're looking for, an alumni experience. Yeah. And that there's a lot of information online as well.
Okay. Sure. So Monica, I'll read up what I can. I'll try and get whatever information I need. And then if I need more
So yeah, you just drop in a message at hello@smartmove.co.in, and we'll fix up a time for a conversation. And then of course, if you're not satisfied, I will share Maina or anybody else who you would like to talk to amongst the alumni here. Most of your questions I'll be able to answer. Just to give you,
Maina, you didn't work while doing FECAT, right? You did.
No, I had actually taken a break from my startup.
Okay.
I was working when I did the FECAT program, but it had to be flexible. Like I was also clocking 9 to 12 hours a day, but I did have to, tell my staff and my working people that there will be flexibility. So when I started towards the second half of the program, I found myself not being able to do so much committed work and having to spend more time. But it was a matter of 3 months or 4 months where that was the case. But there is flexibility.
We also call Monica Super Monica. So
no,
I don't know if you should.
But the thing is that I have an advertising background. I continue to do design. And now with this whole e-learning experience, I can only tell you that whatever I may have learned professionally, if I hadn't taken the FECAT journey, it would have been that much more tougher. It has just allowed me to see aspects of myself which I had blocked, where I was just working with my blinkers on, doing the same product-based work, but just to include the process within it. It has been extremely enriching, not only for me, but also for my clients. But it is 1 year of hard work. You can check, I was ready to quit every week. And it was only Brinda who handheld me. And that's 10 years back now. And then when I finished the program, I'm like, what can I do in my capacity to work at this organization? I will do anything. So it was that impactful for me. And more when we talk, but yeah.
And one, which I am planning a second year. Do you think that this...
I didn't get you. You are planning?
A second pregnancy. I may be. I am thinking of being a second-time mom. For me, this kind of an just helped me become, just helped me sort of be a, I don't know, a wiser, more peaceful, more patient mom and enjoy the pregnancy. So this course seems to be like that, but I still just want to put it out that it is possible that I do take that step as well. I'm very scared to do that, but I may.
So Brinda delivered her twins while designing the program. We had one student who got pregnant during the course of the year, and then she didn't finish it.
But I'm also going to say that we had 2 people who actually thought they couldn't have kids who got pregnant as soon as they finished
while they were doing the program. Yes.
Because this is, well, I think it's because we work so much with creativity, and it's the same, so creating so you're really working you're really unleashing so much of that. So you might find that you're pregnant, but I would say that
not for the pregnant.
Yeah, but I would say that, I mean, when so my babies were 6 months old when the course started, and it was a lot of work. And I'm saying you don't have to do everything at the same time. You can also choose to make it easy for yourself, and because it's also choice.
Sure. All right.
Because it's 1 year later, what would that be like?
Okay, I get it. All right. Very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. You will definitely be very soon with a bunch of more questions, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brenda.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Nidhi. Thanks, Maina.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks, Anushka. Thanks, Ramya.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stop recording.